Our focus at Decisions is sort of taking what Microsoft has already built, what you already have access to from your subscriptions to Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365, and extend those and get them to integrate a bit better for the purposes of organizing meetings.
Hello, my name is Kelly Holland. I am a parish clerk to a small parish council in Essex. I've been a clerk now for 13 years. We have an electorate of just over 1,100, 9 councillors, and at present we have a precept of just over £46,000. Modernising the council was something that was really quite important to me. I'm very much someone who likes to be organised, everything in its own little place. So it was important that I could do that with my council, who aren't necessarily as susceptible to change as I would like them to be. But the main reason for that was to try and streamline my work, give myself more time to actually spend on the projects that needed more time on, and reduce that time commitment on the kind of day-to-day aspect of the job. The decision software showed me a completely new way of working that would address my issues and my challenges in relation to time. Creating the agendas and the paperwork and everything it's creating a huge time commitment for me that I knew needed addressing, but I didn't know what the solution was. So actually seeing this in action, how decisions would work and how it would actually create that agenda pack for me. I've been doing it personally myself in a more as I said, a longer way around, which I've done through Word and also from screenshotting PDFs and trying to fit them in and trying to make sure that they're accessible as well. And it has been a huge drain on my time. So the actual decision software showed that the time spent creating the agendas and the associated packs could be dramatically decreased for me. And there was this software package that did it for me. So to me, that was me. I was kind of sold on it just from that perspective. But in addition, it also gave you the opportunity to create a draft template for your minutes, where it just carried the information from the agenda over to the minutes document. So it was your minutes are almost half written before you even go to write your minutes, which I really liked the idea of. And also the decisions made within the meeting could then be put into Microsoft Planner as well, which I currently do that in a different system. So all these steps that I do myself, one particular piece of software could do for me, which I thought was really, really helpful. So that's the main things that sold me on it.
Hello and welcome to Cloudy IT's mini summit. Today we're going to be talking about building and sharing the modern agenda pack. Hopefully it's going to be a really useful event for everyone attending, and obviously here at Cloudy we're seeing lots of things happening around the digital sector, and we're really big fans of things that help clerks, officers and councillors to run more efficient councils. So today I will be joined by Magnus, the Vice President of Products at Decisions. Hi Magnus, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. Thanks, very well indeed. So, well, Magnus, thanks for joining us today. Obviously, we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the product Decisions, how it enables councils to run much more effective meetings, to be able to build agenda packs in a more simplistic way, and to automate as many processes as possible. And we just heard from Kelly, the town clerk at Canewdon Council, we're just on board with Decisions at the moment, and she told us some of the reasons why she chose Decisions as a product. And if anyone did miss Kelly talking about that, we'll also be playing the video at the end of the summit. So you'll get a chance to see it then. But Magnus, obviously you're going to do a session in a minute, and you're going to hopefully run through how decisions work, so very high level, but also really get there into the detail as well, and show people, how using a product like Decisions built on Microsoft 365 allows clerks, officers to build agenda packs that are engaging, simple to use, and really effective. And obviously, currently we find ourselves in a bit of limbo as we've just transitioned out of virtual meetings into hybrid or certainly in-person meetings. So lots of change going on. But Magnus, I'm going to go through a few bits now. You're welcome to stay on the screen as I go through them, and then obviously we'll start with yourself. But so very brief, obviously, we're going to do a short bit now. I'm just going to go for an introduction, and Magnus is going to start speaking about 10 past 10 and then go through the product in detail. And then at 10 to 11, we'll be opening up for any questions. So if people do have questions, please do put them in the chat. Magnus and myself will be more than happy to answer them. So please do. So I'm just going to talk a bit about sort of the prelude to this event. Cloudy IT run many events over the year. This is, I think, our 6th or 7th event now, each one with a different theme. And obviously lots going on in the digital space at the moment with local government. But what we ran last week was a session on broadcasting council meetings. So this was a really highly attended, engaging event. We had over 400 councils sign up to this event. So clearly something that's a really big topic at the moment. So the event focused around the technology to use to broadcast your council meetings. And even though obviously the law has changed and councils have to be in the room to vote, there are still many benefits to running or broadcasting your council meeting, from the ability to connect with your local residents much better, to also for suppliers, vendors, people coming along to present to the council, being able to do that, and even for officers to be able to join sessions and be able to do their jobs without necessarily having to come to the meeting. So we were joined by a number of councils at that event who we're working with, Buckingham, Bracknell, as well as partners from the sector, including Logitech and Optima as well. So if anyone wants to see that session, please do have a look. It's on our previous events link on our website. So please do head over there to see what all the buzz was about. And I think we'll be doing a few more of those in the future. But what we find ourselves in now is that broadcasting is just one part of the bigger picture. And obviously what we have found because of COVID is an acceleration of digitalization, and organizations, councils using digital it's a much more sort of engaging way than they did maybe before COVID. And we've accepted now that it does save money, it can improve processes and efficiencies, but finding the right platform, the right software is so important. And Microsoft 365 offers that. So you get the core features around the ability to share, store data, and also have all your applications in a really secure environment. But also you can start to add all these wonderful apps, and that's where all the clever stuff happens, to be able to automate, improve processes, and also to be able to do some really specific things. One of them being use a product like Decisions, which is a fantastic bit of kit. We've been working with Decisions over a year now, and we really believe that this product is well priced and well suited for the sector. And we have a number of councils are exploring that right now. And it's just one part of a holistic approach to your technology, making sure that the IT does the hard work for you. So when you're writing up those minutes, agendas, and assigning different tasks, it's all done digitally, and all done really efficiently as well, and saving you more time to obviously do the important things in running your council. So lots of there around it, and obviously we have previous events where we go into detail about that. So Decisions, what is it? So here, I mean, Magnus is going to talk in a lot more detail about how Decisions works. But obviously what we have here is a very simplistic approach to breaking those meetings down into the core elements about preparing for those meetings, creating the agenda, meeting, and then managing the follow-ups afterwards. And the event we did last month around broadcasting, we think is one element of that. And should the laws change and councils be able to meet, virtually, councillors be able to vote virtually, then products like Decisions will be really good because it's fully integrated into Microsoft Teams. The ability to vote, the ability to engage, open supporting papers is from a single pane of glass that is really easy to use. And we do know for our friends over the border over in Wales, they've obviously embraced this and they're looking at hybrid meetings, and we're working with a couple of councils around this about broadcasting and products like Decisions. So certainly, hopefully it'll come here into the UK, into England, and I'm sure a lot of clerks and officers are already praying that something around that will happen. So, the ability, what Decisions does is it breaks down all those different things that you do in a meeting and allows you to run them much more efficiently as well. So, obviously, Magnus is going to talk a bit more about Decisions and how it works. As I mentioned, Decisions sits on top of Microsoft 365 and allows you to prepare for meetings, circulate agenda packs more efficiently, run all the follow-ups, and then obviously ensure that the council papers are put in the correct place. So, Magnus, we're really looking forward to this presentation. So, if you want to sort of run through it, and I'll stay in the background should you need anything, but I'll see you very soon.
Great. Thank you, David. So hello, everyone. Magnus Milson, VP Product at Decisions. And I'll try to show you some of the tools and platform solutions we have for your meetings today. Well, let's see here. The big question is, of course, now that we're moving back to a more regular world, virtual, hybrid, or in-person meetings. And for the public sector and public meetings, there's some guidelines and restrictions, but I think we all agree that the last year has brought a lot of change and a lot of possibilities, and maybe there are some new ways to work and run meetings. So I'll focus a little bit on how Decisions can support those meetings today, and also try to highlight where virtual, hybrid, or in-person really comes in play, and how you can combine those in different settings. But in the past year, if you look back a little bit, I think you all remember the Jackie Weaver case. Virtual is not always easy. It's new, it's a change. It gives possibilities, but it also makes it harder. So we all seen and probably experienced that challenges ourselves. I think we have another screenshot here from a public council in Norway where camera and meeting management and discipline was probably not very well integrated. And you get these moments where there are very, very important meetings, but not all attendees are prepared for that. Unfortunately, Decisions will not be able to help with that part in particular, but a lot of the things around the meeting and the meeting cycle we really support. As meetings go virtual and hybrid, and even in person, so coordinating, managing, preparing meetings is time consuming. It takes a lot of effort to pull everything together, and as you saw in David's slide, to look at that meeting life cycle and the 4 different phases, Decisions really try to make it easier in all of those phases. So not only with creating the agenda pack or sharing that, or making sure that you have one place to manage and upload all the files, but also as you move into the meeting, as you prepare for the meeting, how do you get participants to get all the information they need. We really focus on that meeting lifecycle, and part of our unique approach is integrating the tools that you already know, and that is Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Office. But essentially, you run a meeting and a meeting lifecycle the way you probably familiar with today. If you're using Microsoft, you can use Outlook to schedule the meeting, to invite participants, to set up the schedule or the series for the year. You can then use Decisions as an add-in or plug-in in Outlook to start creating in the agenda, or in Teams, which is more of a collaborative hub where you can tie all of this together. But you also then use technologies like Word, PowerPoint, Excel to use for documents and able to upload and tie those into the agenda, as well as for minutes. And then you have, for example, OneNote, if you want to take notes and prepare for the meeting, either shared notes or private notes. So the threshold to get started with decisions and start using it is lowered in the sense that most of you are already familiar with these Office documents. It's the tools that you know how to use today, and the processes that you maybe have today is then tied into and easily upgraded with decisions. At the high level, these are the 4 steps or phases that we'll focus on today. And that's of course a compressed timeline when I'll show it in both slides and a demo today. So I'll try to make sure that I'll preface what we're looking at. But when you think about a meeting, there's the creation phase where you set up the plan and often have the agenda, tie in the appropriate presenters, the documentation, the information backing up the different cases, and then share that with participants who can then prepare for the meeting, take notes, annotate documents on their own, and as they meet, ready to discuss and vote on items. Running the meeting itself, of course, in a virtual world using something like Teams, or in a hybrid world, maybe have some people in Teams and some people in the room, or even fully in person, where you don't have Teams as the main point of communication. You still have a need around having an agenda. You might have a shared screen in the room. There are minutes, there are notes. So both thinking about the clerk's role in this, but also the participants and that information flow. And once that meeting is concluded, of course, having the minutes, being able to send them out easily, even maybe get comments and feedback from a smaller group before publishing the final minutes. So as we go through this, 4 stages are really what we kind of break down a meeting life cycle in. So the Decisions is a meeting management platform, and we have a specific view or focus on public meetings or for councils. So what we'll talk about today is specifically around that use case. And essentially, together with Microsoft, we launched a lot of these features in pretty much early last year, and as Corona really spread out, we worked with a lot of municipalities, especially in Norway, but also with Microsoft and their customer success reps to find how can we support these public meetings that is now changing from being in person to going virtual. And part of the key features we're going to talk about today is meeting pack generation. And that kind of flows from, as you prepare the meeting, you get the agenda and the plan ready, you prepare the different cases, and then how can you easily create a PDF pack, a meeting pack out of that, without having to manually kind of move different files together, merge documents, convert them to PDF, then getting updates and changes and having to do it all over again. But that really easily, with a click of a button, create the meeting pack. Once we get into the meeting itself, and then especially in a virtual or hybrid environment, having a speaker list, being able to do virtual voting, but also seeing the agenda, being able to track the plan, and have all of these different enter points that people are now using, either a computer or a mobile app or an iPad, and really have a broad support for any way a participant or attendee want to engage with the meeting. On the clerk side, it's of course a dashboard, an overview, ability to manage that meeting and the documents. And for the manage part of it or follow up part of it, being able to integrate with electronic signatures when you have the minutes published and sent out. So this is first glimpse on how decision looks like. So it's centered around the meeting and the agenda. You prepare agenda items and then have a lot of different supporting tools, either by assigning presenters, uploading documents, preparing votes, and having kind of the platform support you running that life cycle. Meeting pack generation it's integrated into Word, so tools that you already know. Decision is then an add-in that really then ties and merges all of these documents directly. You have the Teams meeting itself, being able to view the decisions agenda in the meeting while still focusing on the people you're talking to, having everyone be able to go through the agenda, see how far we are, access to attachments, to additional information straight from the meeting itself. For a clerk, of course, you have a full overview and access to all of the information, but as you are a participant, you're not always that prepared, maybe. So as you join the meeting, you click on the link, you can open a meeting, you have everything ready there. Speaker list, essentially a integration as well into Teams and a way to create a ordered list of speakers. As you run a virtual or hybrid environment, having the hand raise or some signal to the speaker is unmanageable. So having a digital coordinated speaker list where everyone from their device can ask to be on the list makes the running the meeting a lot easier. So this is from a public council in Sandefjord municipality in Norway. Here's another example where there's multiple politicians that sign up to speak to a certain case, and the supporting kind of functionalities both around asking for a new speaker spot, but you can also have a remark to what somebody just presented, and then you'll be automatically added to that part underneath the last speaker. When it comes to voting, there's similar challenges with having a virtual or hybrid environment where different people is at different places, and how do you ensure both security, access, and most importantly, maybe ease of use. As new products, new possibilities get introduced, the key part is really making sure that everybody can use them. So Decisions has worked really hard and really closely with many of our key customers to make it as easy as possible. And that means that as you're participating, you only need to click on a button. You can click on it from any device, if in computer, mobile, in Teams, in the web, and it's always available. But still, we ensure security by validating the user and user registration and having a member registry of the people that are allowed to vote. That security is then tied to the Microsoft security system with both two-factor authentication and possibilities to add even additional layers of verification on that identity of the person. For the voting process itself, we'll see a video here shortly, but essentially both voting and viewing the results is then available for everyone, and the clerks have their dashboard to manage this, to issue votes, to coordinate on their side. So this is from a council meeting in Drammen Kommune, or Drammen municipality, where you have 57 politicians accessing voting live in a virtual meeting. As you can see, this is an open public vote. You have the party affiliation and structured or grouped by party. And as you run the meeting, it's getting updated live. So then as you run these meetings and council meetings, the ability to quickly run the vote, get the results, see who might have not voted. At this point, there's 3 people who are still waiting to vote. So as a clerk, you can then reach out or contact them directly. That is key, both in a normal scenario where everything works, but also with virtual or hybrid. Sometimes internet drops out. Sometimes people forget to plug in the computer in the power outlet, and you also have to think about these scenarios. And Decision has worked really hard to make that easy, to cover all the different things that can happen during a meeting. The mobile app also is a great entry point, and this is where we probably can move or talk more about in person. A few of the councils that we work closely with, they plan to go back to in-person meetings. They think that that is a better way to meet and really have a face-to-face discussion, but with 50, 60, 70 representatives in their municipality, they already see the benefit of decisions even in in-person meetings. Having access from each person's personal device or shared devices, they can then have a speaker list and run votes even in person. They don't need having additional people to tally the count or to ensure that the speaker list is in order. They kind of foresee and plan to then use decisions, the agenda pack, and then running the meeting in person. And this is where the mobile app makes it really easy to participate in the meeting. And even if you're in the room, you get benefit of having it digitally available. So what I'll show you now is a little bit of how decisions work in action. I can talk to slides all day, but it's really about how the product feels and looks like and how easy it is to use. So I'll start with introducing a couple of different screens here to really highlight the point that decision is part of the workflow and the tools you already need. This is then the Outlook view. You run meeting series, create meetings, send invites in the same way you do today. You have a decisions app that it can be installed with Outlook that opens up a side panel, and you can already get started with the agenda and create and send out agenda packs from Outlook. So if that's the tool you're most familiar with and use the most, maybe you haven't started using Teams fully yet, that's fully fine and fully supported. Often what we see is that the meetings and meeting lifecycle is being managed in Outlook. But as you want to collaborate and start preparing the agenda, Teams give you a bigger interface and a little bit of an easier way to manage the meeting. So this is just an example here, and I'll try to show you how it will look like in Teams as well. And I'll also make sure that we focus on the different phases here. So at this point, we're looking at really that organizing phase. So starting out, how do you build an agenda? And as you can see, you have an agenda item. It's as easy as starting to prepare that. Maybe the first item is opening remarks. And then as you then move into additional items, you can choose to have it in draft mode, which can then be shared with other clerks, and you can have multiple people working on preparing it together. You add items, and as you have maybe a case list or a proposed case list, you start building that out. In decisions, there's then a lot of supporting tools and functionality. One way to really get prepared for the meeting is to then assign time slots. And as you have a meeting time and as you build out the agenda, you can quickly see that, okay, we're running out of time. Maybe we have to change something. Maybe we have to make sure this does not take longer. You also have tools for assigning guest presenters, uploading attachments, or giving people the ability to prepare or upload that agenda item specifically. And if we move into a little bit of a different phase here, this is then how it looks like in Teams. And I've cheated a little bit and created some examples here in advance. But in Teams, you then have a full room or platform for engagement and collaboration. A decisions tool or application is available in a similar manner in Teams, and you have the decisions app on the sidebar, but you also have support for it in this team and channel structure, where Teams is a collection of kind of members, and the channels is then different topics or could be different meeting series that is going on. So as you go through decisions, there's a few different ways to engage with it and use it, but it's fully up to the user to use the method they find most applicable. But it's all supported in both Teams and Outlook and in web. For this example, County Council, I then have the Decisions app, where I can view all the meetings in this channel or for this team or group of people. All the meetings with agendas will then be listed, but you can also go back and look at past meetings to find notes and minutes from past run meetings. As I move into a meeting and an agenda, I then have an example filled out here. So as you can see, there's a meeting time. You also have a participant list or attendee list, and then it's focused and centered around the agenda itself. Here are some examples of hypothetical cases, but as you can see, you can then build out the agenda, allocating time, assigning presenters, uploading files, and as this point of view is from a clerk or a meeting admin, but you can then also have multiple people collaborate on it or assign a certain person to be able to upload and prepare that agenda item. As I build this out and prepare the agenda, there's a few different steps that moves us into the preparation phase. At this point, maybe I only worked with it with the other clerks, but I'm now getting ready to share it. I can then send this out through a few different ways, depending on how our system is set up, but essentially by email, of course, in the Teams channel, and also updating the meeting invitation that I already done for this. And when I send out and share this, I might already have prepared the meeting book in advance. So David talked about the meeting book or meeting pack, which is really a great feature to take all the agenda items, all the information, all the attachments, and automatically merge them into a PDF. So if you move now to the second phase and look at how it will look like for a participant that is joining the meeting, we can look at this example person, Jonathan, and in their inbox, you can see that I got an email. It's for the county council meeting. I've chosen to add an agenda summary here, but you can also just have the link to ensure that the person viewing the agenda is the intended person. And as you open either the email or within the calendar, so here's an example where you can see it's just the agenda link, but it's in the same tools, the same way Jonathan is used to work today. It's a meeting invitation, it's an email. You click then the link and you will have access to the agenda. As you then prepare for the meeting, you can read through all the information, open different documents, also create personal annotations, which will then technically copy the original document and give Jonathan a private copy that he can take notes, highlight with. So either on a document kind of level, or as you see up top here, there's the meeting book available. So as you open this on either your computer or your iPad, you can then get a full meeting preparation pack, meeting pack with the agenda, overview of the cases, having different items and then attachments. So as we now move into different items here, of course, a number of different examples. You can see that we added a few documents, and they're all from different formats: Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and then being merged into PDF. Here's a little bit of text. So as I prepare for this meeting, I can then choose different functionality, either highlight certain things I want to make sure I remember for the meeting, or add reminders to myself. There's also then support for taking personal notes, which will open then in OneNote. And as you prepare for the meeting, really be able to make sure that you have everything you need. As you run through the meeting and getting to the actual meeting itself, we'll go back to the view of the clerk, and then you have some additional functionalities available. For the minutes part, that works in a similar way, where you can then choose to, as you're ready to start taking minutes, open that in Word. And what it does is take all the information that you already kind of created, the plan that you have on the agenda, and then making sure that it's available in the Word document itself. I then choose to either assign who is absent, if I want to add the agenda description to the minutes itself, include decisions or actions that might already been recorded, and I merge those into the document. And what you'll see here is my default template, but this can of course be optimized and customized for your current template, both with logos, with color scheme, with font size, but also different elements of information. So all the different things that is tied to a meeting, to an agenda, who is the presenter, how long, who is assigned, files, attachment can all be customized and created in a way that you know today. As you run through the meeting itself, being able to take notes during the meeting, or maybe you prefer having your own notes and then creating the minutes afterwards. We really support any way you like to work. As I run through the meeting and we're moving into the last phase of really managing and following up, I can then send out a draft minutes for review, either assigned to people that was in the meeting or add additional people. And that will then be a Word draft that can be shared with additional people. They can then, for example, using the review function or leave comments. And as you get the feedback from reviewers, you can then move into a finalization phase where you really take the minutes in its final state in Word and create the PDF. This is also where you can choose to add on a electronic signature flow and assign that to people. It's going to be shared directly via email, or also now will be available in Teams. So if you saw the little subtle change here, the symbol on top changed from a Word symbol to a PDF, and it's in now a published state, which also means that participants can be able to access it and see it in in their calendar, or no, in their inbox, or on the document itself. So as we're now viewing it from the point of view of a participant, earlier there was no minutes part, but that's now added. So as you attend and participate in meetings, information will be available from different places, and your history as well, so you can go back and run that. The last thing I wanted to focus on or highlight here is really around voting. So I know it's not all of you that are able to run votes from a regulation point of view today, but to just show how easy that could be if things changes. So in the sense, in this example, maybe an easy vote, but approval of minutes from last meeting, you link to the minutes, and you want to make sure that you get a quorum on approval of that. As you run this as a clerk and use this really as your dashboard, you can then set up a number of proposed votes. It can be either one vote, a yay or a nay, or you can also set different alternatives up against each other. As a start to vote, there's a number of different kind of functionalities. There's anonymity. There's also, if you allow for blank votes or for a participant to abstain. We also want to close the vote when all votes are in. And for this one, we will choose to post it in the Teams channel, but it's also available then in the meeting chat or in the Decisions app on the mobile or in the meeting itself automatically. When I now post this, it will be available, but also then posted as a post in Teams or in the meeting chat when you're using Teams as the meeting provider. Participants that are then eligible to vote, they can click the button that will then authenticate them and make sure they are eligible to vote, and only eligible people will see and be able to give the vote. And I'll leave my vote here. And then if it's an open vote, you can then follow along and see as you run the meeting who has voted. And also as a clerk here, I can then have a quick overview who has not voted yet and maybe reach out or make sure to remind them. That information then, and having running through a full cycle, is then available, of course, with the agenda, and also can be added to the minutes and make sure that you have the results in a archived way to look back to, but also to be able to share in the minutes itself. I think that is the last thing I'll highlight now. There's a lot of additional functionality and support for the meeting lifecycle that at least gives you an impression of the decision product and what we can be able to help you with. Before we tackle some of the questions, just to summarize, decisions for councils with Microsoft or with Teams really help you drive more effective meetings. It's a low threshold to get started. It's the tools that you use today, but it also automates or makes things a little bit easier, in addition to standardizing some of the process to really support that life cycle. The future is hybrid. I do think that's the direction we're working towards in a global sense. From our customer conversations and the feedback we get, every company has now discovered new ways to work and don't foresee to go back to the old days. But the hard part is then what kind of technology, what kind of new processes should we keep, and how do we change and make sure that we are as efficient as possible in the future. All right, let's move to some questions. I'm not able to see the questions here, David, so maybe you can jump in and explain if there have been any questions.
Yeah, hi Magnus. Thanks ever so much for that really detailed sort of step-by-step process of showing how decisions works on top of Microsoft Office 365, Outlook, Teams. You know, we really like the product. We think it really does automate a lot of different things, and there's some aspects around it. What I might just do is also share my screen and actually show some of the things that we've been doing to help councils as they integrate decisions into their council tenant. And here we've got an example of how we tend to set councils up now. So we can see here all the different committees as teams within 365, as well as the operations team, which is the private team or for the officers. But we have the decisions D, as Magnus showed you there, and you'd actually see all of your council meetings listed here, which are all scheduled to go, but currently do not have any agenda packs assigned to them. So you can see here we've got finance, full council and plan. And if we were to go into finance and add the agenda, you can see here we want to add it for the finance committee, and then we create the agenda. So at the moment it's blank, obviously, so we need to populate that. So what you can do with decisions is use templates, and we've got here the finance council meeting template, which will pre-populate that with all the key aspects of it. So we'll basically hit save on that now. So it's a great way to obviously just reuse your agendas. And then from here, as Magnus was saying, you can start building out your agendas in terms of adding the supporting papers, and linking to them within SharePoint or uploading PDFs, etc. So all sorts there. So you can link all sorts of documents to as a supporting paper, and you can add speakers as well here that you want to speak at certain times. So that's certainly automating the first part of the process. And then this does integrate with Planner. So you can actually use Planner to assign all those tasks during the meeting. So if you open up the Planner here, which just asked me to sign in, you can see all the tasks from the meeting are sat here as tasks assigned to the correct person, which would also appear in your personal tasks until you've resolved them. Just down, where are we? Here, tasks and Planner. So really optimize and automating how you assign tasks from meetings. You can see here finance committee, and I can see here all the tasks that have been assigned to me within the finance committee, all the different things I have to do as the clerk. So once again, automating, and then when you build the minute books, it takes all of this information, puts it into a single PDF. That is a true representation of your meeting. So yeah, I mean, obviously, Magnus, thanks ever so much for going through all that. It's really useful to see it in so much detail. We are speaking to quite a few councils about this because they can see the benefits, and obviously working with decisions, our expertise around 365, modernising councils, and your expertise around building agenda packs through your product and distributing those agenda packs. We haven't seen some great results. So yeah, we're going to move on to questions and answers now. So I don't know if anyone has any questions at the moment. We're also going to be joined by Stefan as well from Decisions. Hi Stefan, how are you doing?
I'll just unmute myself as well. I'm good, and thank you for your presentation so far.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us. And if you want to just say your role at Decisions and see what you're seeing globally happening really during the pandemic.
Absolutely. So I'm the VP of partnership at Decisions, and working extensively with Microsoft as one of our partners, but also building up the other partnerships like yourselves. And clearly, I mean, just as you've addressed, I think one of the most obvious trends is this stickiness of hybrid meetings, if not as well virtual meetings, as a result of the pandemic. We simply have seen, you know, so many productivity increases that I think that's going to stay for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Decisions is well placed for that product that's low cost. Runs on 365, which, you know, we find the majority of councils now operate. And we do know that when you host your applications in Microsoft, you know, you've got the advantage of taking use of their security, their storage, the the ability to share content in a really simplistic way. So it's kind of just leveraging all those wonderful things Microsoft already do, and then applying a fantastic product on top. And you know, Decisions has been around quite a while, hasn't it? You're not just a recent company. Do you want to tell us a bit of history about the company and how many councils you're working with, please?
Yeah, for sure. Or Stefan, do you want to jump
go ahead,
in?
Magnus. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Decision's been around since 2016, and it really started with the question, how can you make meetings more effective? And our founder and founding team has vast experience from more the corporate world, but also as a software provider to the public sector, and seen the challenges around meetings, and really there must be a better way. So with that question, starting out building tools, solutions, and really working closely with customers to understand what can we do to make it easier. As I mentioned, it was really the start of last year that we saw that use and an uptick in the public sector, because we already had customers from before using the meeting or Decisions for the normal administrative meetings and that meeting life cycle. But then we got the question, how can we use this in a virtual world? You're already supporting our normal virtual meetings internally. How can we then address public meetings? And since the launch early last year, I think we have around 25 different municipalities and different levels of governing bodies that runs their meeting life cycles with Decisions, from maybe the early days, moving into Teams and using new technologies, to the more advanced that really been using virtual or meeting technologies before, but then saw a need for having a structured speaker list, having a meeting pack, having voting be supported, and really taking Decisions to the next level. So as you saw in the presentations, there's a number of screenshots from public meetings that are being streamed online. And these are quite large meetings as well from some of the larger councils. We have 50, 70 people not only joining, but actually participating in the voting and being the representatives. You then usually have a number of public members who are joining and viewing the meeting itself. So through the last year, we've been really focused on public sector and public meetings, and working closely to figure out how to best support them.
Brilliant. Yeah, thank you ever so much. And that's what we see with local government here in England and Wales, the opportunity for the smallest of parish and town councils to be able to run effective, easy to manage, easy to build agenda meetings with easy to build agendas at a very good price point as well. So brilliant. Well, I think we've got a couple of questions. So if Ryan, if you could put them on the screen for us. So we've got one. Can you access a meeting book option off Teams via other Microsoft software? Yeah, Magnus, the meeting book option, can you get it in Teams or anywhere else, please?
Great question. Yes, so the choices are many, but the Teams, of course, and then in Outlook itself, as you receive an email or an update to that meeting invitation, there's also ability to share a link, so normal web URL link, and then as soon as you open it and annotate it first time, it also get automatically added to your OneDrive folder, and then you will have access to it via OneDrive on all the different platforms. You can use that. And the last part where I think a lot of the users really comes from is through the mobile app. As you prepare for the meeting, you might do it on the fly. Some people like to use a tablet format to just reading a document, preparing. It's more focused, and it's easier to do it from your leisure with a tablet. So I think the meeting app is really where we see most users accessing it, but then anywhere you can log on to or get it up.
Okay, great. So you can access multiple places, but also export it as a PDF for future use. So, okay, brilliant. Thanks very much. And the next question, please. We're a small county, one employee and a small budget. How useful is cloud IT to my council? Okay. Quite an interesting one. So we work with many parish councils of just one clerk and councillors. In fact, Kelly from Canooden, who spoke earlier and will speak in a minute at the end of the event, she is just a clerk. She runs multiple councils. So the product is, Cloudy, we are very useful from the smallest parish to the largest town. But certainly, working with our partners like Decisions and like Logitech, we can assist you to run more effective councils and take all the administrative overhead and burden off you to focus on the important things and not worry about the security and this sharing and the processes, and let the technology do the work for you. So hopefully that answers your question there. How can I manage documents in the cloud or equivalent? So a bit, I suppose, off the Decisions track, but certainly, SharePoint, Microsoft 365 OneDrive is the best place to put your data. And when it's there, you have all sorts of abilities to share that content, whether externally, internally, and add all those security permissions around it as well. So there's lots of options around it. SharePoint and 365 definitely is the best place to put it, and I'd recommend to put it there. And then when you put a product like Decisions on top of that, it will allow you to run much more effective meetings as well. So, Stefan, I suppose from your perspective as well, best place to manage documents in the cloud or equivalent, what would you say?
No, I think it's worth underscoring. Obviously, Magnus covered it, right? But that was one of the, very conscious design criteria decisions from Decisions to base it on Office 365, where customers have trusted Microsoft with their authentication and with their data security and so on. And building on that, we believe that, and many customers, both in the public and commercial sector, obviously trust Microsoft. And so Decision is not storing any data in our own sort of data centers run on Azure, but it's all inside your trusted Microsoft Office 365 environment. So.
Yeah, brilliant, which is we feel the best way to run it. So fantastic. Thanks ever so much. And the next question, please. How can a parish council become paperless? So interesting point. And we hear this thrown around a few times, and sometimes, we get heard of calling things paper light, not paperless. And it can be hard to go paperless, to be honest. And there probably is a place for paper somewhere, But certainly I think the old-fashioned approach, which is to print the agenda pack, post the agenda pack, and shred it afterwards, it is seen as certainly outdated now and inefficient and not very environmentally friendly. And the time it takes to do all of that, we've spoken to clerks, we've had clerks blog about this, is very time consuming, whereas you build it digitally now with a product like Decisions and you share that within a couple of clicks, all the permissions are in place, it works a lot more effective. So I think, we were seeing a trend of councils moving paperless or paper light with digital agendas before COVID. We've seen that accelerate now, and obviously the integration of Teams and broadcasting and creating these hybrid meetings as well. And as we know in Wales, this is a thing now where councils are still meeting virtually and councillors are voting virtually as well. But Stefan and Magnus, paperless, what's your opinion on it, please?
I think it's the future. So with Decisions and with Cloudy IT and using tools from Microsoft, you really can go paperless with small changes to your current process, and it's really around that. Often, how do you consume the information? How do you share the information? And if the old process is around mailing out meeting packs, then giving people the ability to access the data and get the information from whatever device or tool or platform they want is a key way to support their journey to change that process. And not everyone agrees that reading material on a screen is the best format, and I tend to agree on that, but at least then you can start there and then people can choose themselves. If you want to print the agenda pack locally in your house, of course, but still making it easy, making it a click of a button is the key parts here to really get started with that.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks very much. And Stefan?
No, I think you you hit it there, Magnus, right? Make the process paperless. That's the most important, that you don't depend on paper, to go through the process and be compliant. But then, of course, you still have individuals that can choose to print and read, and that's very different. You don't want your entire process to depend on a paper trail.
Excellent. And I suppose sometimes as well, when we look at how agenda packs are shared, with multiple documents, very hard to manage, errors being made and having to be resent out again, it can be quite an administrative overhead and burden. So, when you have the right processes in place, like you said, it makes it simpler and slicker and a much more, I suppose, a nicer process for everyone. So fantastic. Well, thanks for that. And I think we probably have time for one more question, if that's okay. Okay, what's the cost of decisions? We have MS365, not planner. We have medium-sized council, but a little budget. Okay, a good question. So, we work very closely with decisions to work with the councils in England and Wales. And we know it is within reach of a council, a parish and town council in terms of budgets. We currently do have councils with the product, and there are councils in England and Wales using it. It is done on a per user basis, and we encourage, if a council does want to discover the pricing, to come forward. We'll walk them through the process and how much it would cost, but certainly it is within reach of the smallest of parish and town councils. But Magnus or Stefan, do you want to add anything around that at all, please?
Well, maybe only that if you do have Microsoft 365, Amanda, I suspect you do have Planner included. It's actually quite few plans where Teams and Planner are not part. So make sure to double check. You may actually have access to Planner as well.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And, like I said, Decisions is one app of many, but there are native apps that come with 365 Planner, tasks and, bookings and lists and forms. So yeah, I'm sure it is in there as well. So brilliant. Well, thanks, Amanda, for that. And please do get in touch if you'd want us to put some numbers together for you. We'd love to do that. So great. Well, thanks very much, Magnus and Stefan, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. The march to modernise and transform councils and local government isn't an easy one. It's a slow process. If it takes a bit of time to get there, and you have to build the building blocks first, obviously, and get things right in terms of the training that comes with it. And that's something that Cloudy really does focus on quite a lot. So we obviously, as I mentioned, we've got a number of events we've put on in the past, and also events we put on in the future. If I could just have the slides up, Ryan, and then I'll just sort of go through those quickly now. Great, cheers. So previous events, as I've mentioned, we run regular events with our partners, and back in June we had a finance virtual summit with Rialtus and a number of councils who joined us, as well as discussing apps for councils. We had a couple of councils join to explain the apps they'd started to implement within their council using Microsoft Power Apps. And then we've also had the ones about using Microsoft 365 and licensing and web accessibility, and obviously broadcasting your council meetings. And these are all available on our website. So please do encourage you to go and have a look if you're interested. And then we do have some events coming up as well. So we're working with the Yorkshire ALC, and we're at their remote conference in September. We're also at the SLCC National Conference in October. And then we also have a web accessibility and a social responsibility summit coming up as well. So a really busy calendar of events involving our partners, our councils, and just really getting some discussion engagement around all these really important topics for officers, clerks and councillors. But I suppose just to wrap up, really. So, Stefan and Magnus, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really appreciate it. And if anyone does have any questions and we haven't answered them today, we will make sure we get back to you with those. But gents, thanks for joining us, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Our focus at Decisions is sort of taking what Microsoft has already built, what you already have access to from your subscriptions to Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365, and extend those and get them to integrate a bit better for the purposes of organizing meetings.
Hello, my name is Kelly Holland. I am a parish clerk to a small parish council in Essex. I've been a clerk now for 13 years. We have an electorate of just over 1,100, 9 councillors, and at present we have a precept of just over £46,000. Modernising the council was something that was really quite important to me. I'm very much someone who likes to be organised, everything in its own little place. So it was important that I could do that with my council, who aren't necessarily as susceptible to change as I would like them to be. But the main reason for that was to try and streamline my work, give myself more time to actually spend on the projects that needed more time on, and reduce that time commitment on the kind of day-to-day aspect of the job. The decision software showed me a completely new way of working that would address my issues and my challenges in relation to time. Creating the agendas and the paperwork and everything it's creating a huge time commitment for me that I knew needed addressing, but I didn't know what the solution was. So actually seeing this in action, how decisions would work and how it would actually create that agenda pack for me. I've been doing it personally myself in a more as I said, a longer way around, which I've done through Word and also from screenshotting PDFs and trying to fit them in and trying to make sure that they're accessible as well. And it has been a huge drain on my time. So the actual decision software showed that the time spent creating the agendas and the associated packs could be dramatically decreased for me. And there was this software package that did it for me. So to me, that was me. I was kind of sold on it just from that perspective. But in addition, it also gave you the opportunity to create a draft template for your minutes, where it just carried the information from the agenda over to the minutes document. So it was your minutes are almost half written before you even go to write your minutes, which I really liked the idea of. And also the decisions made within the meeting could then be put into Microsoft Planner as well, which I currently do that in a different system. So everything, all these steps that I do myself, one particular piece of software could do for me, which I thought was really, really helpful. So that's the main things that sold me on it.
Everybody in the staff team is significantly happier with the system and the support that we have now. So for councillors, for example, over the recent coronavirus lockdown, we've been able to maintain online meetings because all of our councillors have access to Teams via their tablets. So I can sit here in my front room, managing 19 councillors and 4 or 5 officers and members of the public, holding an online meeting with the integrated system that Claudia provided.
The one thing that I'm really pleased to see is that our actual councillor attendance at the meetings has actually been boosted. We're getting virtually 100% attendance at all the meetings, which I think is a really good thing, and I am in no doubt whatsoever that's by the virtue of the fact that they're able to access the remote meetings via Teams.